Okay, welcome to all in this MOOC course on the topic renewable energy technologies and their uses. Today I am going to discuss on clean development mechanism. I am Dr. M. Rizwan, Professor, Department of Electrical Engineering, Delhi Technological University, Delhi. So the outline of my presentation includes the introduction about CDM, which is Clean Development Mechanism, Clean Development Mechanism projects, objectives, purpose, goal, criteria of CDM projects, outcomes and benefits of CDM projects. Also, we will discuss about the challenges that we are facing in the CDM projects, and we will also discuss about the CDM projects in Indian context. So, as you know, the Clean Development Mechanism is a cooperative mechanism established under the Kyoto Protocol. The Clean Development Mechanism defined in Article 12 of Kyoto Protocol. It allows a country with an emission reduction or emission limitation commitment under the Kyoto Protocol to implement an emission reduction projects in developing countries. As you know that CDM projects have the potential to assist developing countries in achieving sustainable development by promoting environment-friendly investment. Through CDM projects, both the investors and host countries can take the benefits in terms of the following: by contributing to sustainable development goal in the host developing country, by allowing investor countries to meet their greenhouse gas reduction targets at the lowest possible cost. With the help of this figure, you can understand how these CDM projects can be executed or how the CDM projects can be implemented. So here you can see on the top, this is a CDM concept which is basically related to the carbon credits, and here on the left hand side you can see there is a industrialized country which is basically looking after the greenhouse gas emissions, and the target country is the developing country in which we are going to reduce the emissions with the help of this CDM concept. So as far as the Kyoto Protocol is concerned, because it is related to Kyoto Protocol, it is a global effort to protect the environment and achieve sustainable development with the first time government accepted legal binding constraints on their greenhouse gas emissions. In third meeting of the parties, COP3 under UNFCCC, the Kyoto Protocol was adopted and set legally binding greenhouse gas reduction for industrialized countries. Protocol covers the 6 main greenhouse gases, which includes carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, and sulfur hexafluoride. As you know that this protocol allows the industrialized countries the option of deciding which of the 6 gases will form a part of national emission reduction strategy. Activities related to forestry sector and land use change like deforestation and reforestation as well that emits or absorb CO2 also covered under this protocol. The Kyoto Protocol is a milestone global efforts to protect the environment and achieve sustainable development. Kyoto Protocol also includes 3 market-based mechanisms aimed at cost-effective emission reduction. The first one is international emission trading, which is you can also abbreviate it as IET. It permits the countries to transfer parts of their allowed emission. The second one is Clean Development Mechanism. It allows the emission reduction project that assist in creating sustainable development in developing countries to generate certified emission reductions for use by the investor. The third one is joint implementation. It allows countries to claim credit for emission reductions that arise from investment in other industrialized countries, which results in a transfer of equivalent emission reductions units between the countries. Now, what is CDM projects? Now I am going to discuss about the definition of CDM projects and how it can be implemented, what are the objectives, what are the challenges, and what are the benefits of the CDM projects. So CDM projects produce CER credits generated from greenhouse gas emissions, reducing or emissions avoiding projects in non-Annex 1 countries according to UNFCCC 1999. Now, greenhouse gases mix uniformly in the atmosphere, making it possible to reduce emissions at any point on the planet and have the same effect. It also includes the facts which enables the countries to pursue the greenhouse gas reductions to do so where they can be reduced at lower cost. In CDM projects, it also allows the entities in Annex 1 countries that have ratified the Kyoto Protocol to invest in projects that reduce greenhouse gases in non-Annex 1 countries as well, while contributing to sustainable development. Okay, now we will discuss about the basics of the CDM projects. So in the center you can see this is the clean development mechanism, and if you see at the top there is a Annex 1 countries which are basically responsible to provide these CDM projects, and on the bottom you can see the non-Annex 1 countries like the developing countries. They are there is no legally binding emissions on these countries. So here on the left hand side you can see there is a greenhouse gas emissions reduction projects, and on the right hand side you can see with the help of this CDM mechanism you can do the carbon sink projects as well. So in case of the Annex 1 countries, they buy the CERs from CDM projects based at developing countries, and they are earn the additional revenue by selling the CERs to the developing countries. But on the other hand, if you see, the target of the Annex 1 countries is to provide these CDM projects at a lower cost, whereas in case of non-Annex 1 countries, they are plan and implement CDM projects activity within their boundary. Now we will talk about the objectives of the CDM projects, because if you are going to implement anything, we should know what is the aims or what are the objectives behind these CDM projects. So as you know that under the Kyoto Protocol, a CDM project must provide measurable, real and long-term benefits for mitigation of climate change, and a CDM project produce a reduction in emissions that would occur in the absence of project. The third objective of the CDM projects is to accomplish the goals of the UNFCCC, such as to prevent dangerous interference with the climate system. The next one is to encourage sustainable development in developing nations, and you can also understand this concept with the help of this figure. So here, what is CDM dual products? So in this case, you can see with the help of the CDM project, which is given on the top, you can provide the CERs, and this which is responsible for sustainable development in developing countries. On the left hand side at bottom, you can see there are the investors. The CERs can be withdrawn and no longer used or transferred, but with the help of investors, investors can sell the CERs to other investors or countries to comply with the Kyoto Protocol commitments. It also includes the investor can use the CER to comply with domestic Kyoto Protocol regulations. Now, what are the goals of CDM projects? Article 12 of the Kyoto Protocol set out 3 goals for the CDM: to help mitigate climate change, to help Annex 1 countries attain their emission reduction commitments, to help non-Annex 1 countries achieve sustainable development. So, before going to implement the CDM projects, we should know what should be the criteria for the implementation of CDM projects. So, CDM projects have 3 overall criteria. The first one is project must be voluntary. Project must be able to show long-term climate change mitigation benefits. Project must contribute to emissions reduction above the beyond business as usual. Now in this table, you can see the eligible donor countries, which includes in Annex 1 and sectors and the greenhouse gas emissions. So in this table, you can see there are a lot of countries which are responsible to provide the CDM projects to the developing countries. And these countries include Australia, Austria, Belarus, Belgium, Bulgaria, Canada, and Finland, France, Italy, Japan, Ireland, Iceland, Hungary, Monaco, New Zealand, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, UK, USA, Ukraine, and there are many more countries which can provide these CDM projects to the developing countries. Now in the second column you can see what are the sectors in which we can do these CDM projects. The major sector is energy, industrial processes, solvents and other products, waste, land use change and forestry, and what are the greenhouse gas emissions which is coming out from these sectors. The mainly greenhouse gases which are coming from these sectors includes the carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons and sulfur hexafluoride. Now these are the eligible host countries which can take these CDM projects. It includes India as well. So you can see in this table there are a lot of countries which can take these CDM projects, and these countries includes Bhutan, Brazil, Chile, Ghana, Georgia, Egypt, Cyprus, Cuba, Colombia, China, India, Indonesia, Israel, Jamaica, Jordan, and there are many more countries who can take these CDM projects. So in this table you can see what are the greenhouse gases emissions and what are their sources which are responsible for these greenhouse gases. So as you know that there are total 6 greenhouse gases emissions which includes in these CDM projects. So the one is carbon dioxide, and the sources are fossil fuel, combustion, deforestation, agriculture. Methane, the main sources are agriculture, land use, change, biomass burning and landfills. Nitrous oxide, the main sources are fossil fuel, combustion, industrial, agricultural. Hydrofluorocarbons, industrial and manufacturing. Perfluorocarbons, industrial and manufacturing as well. And sulfur hexafluoride, they are coming from electricity transmission and manufacturing industries. Now in this table you can see what are the eligible sectors and their sources. So if you talk about the energy, then energy, the source category is fuel combustion, energy industries, manufacturing industries, construction, transport, other sectors and many more. Industrial processes, the source is coming out from mineral products, chemical industry, metal production, other productions, production and consumption of halocarbons and sulfur hexafluorides, solvents and other products used, they are coming from agricultural, manure management, rice cultivation, agricultural soils, prescribed burning of the fossil fuels, field burning of agricultural residues. Now the waste which is coming out from the solid waste disposal on land, wastewater handling, water incineration. The land use and land use change and forestry, they are coming out from woodlots, plantation and agroforestry. So now we can discuss about the CDM projects eligibility criteria, because when we are going to implement any of the CDM projects, then we should know the criteria behind these projects. So in Article 12 of Kyoto Protocol, the discussion of principles and criteria to be applied to CDM projects appraisal is mentioned. CDM project selection, the first one, CDM project participation, CDM project verification, CDM projects crediting, CDM projects financial issues. So here you can see the CDM selection criteria. CDM projects in energy sector be confined to the techniques which contribute to and use energy efficiency, supply side energy efficiency in newly constructed facilities, renewable energy to supply energy services, reduction of methane emissions from landfills and other waste handling activities, reduction of nitrous oxide emission and perfluorocarbons emissions. Reductions in emissions, only projects in which emissions are measurable should qualify for CDM. Now measurable baselines, CDM projects must result in lower emissions than the current business as usual. What are the social impacts? the project should result in increased local employment and increased equity. Environmental impacts, projects should result in a reduction in local emissions. In terms of the capacity to participate, the capacity building should be undertaken on an expedited basis to prepare both Annex 1 and non-Annex 1 countries entities. Now, voluntary participation in CDM projects must remain voluntary and independent of other international contracts. Now the CDM must operate with respect to the sovereignty of the parties. Now, the CDM projects crediting criteria includes insurance of certified emission reductions, CERs. CERs should either be bank post certified reduction or be ensured, and in terms of leakage inside and outside the project's boundary must be identified, measured, reported and deducted from CERs. Now, here you can see what is the criteria for verification of the CDM projects. So, entities involved in CDM projects verification must be undertaken by institutions which are accredited by the executive boards of the CDM. Now, projects reporting, the information pertaining to the progress of CDM projects should be included in national communications of parties to the FCCC. Here, we will discuss further about the CDM projects financial criteria. The allocation of the project's benefits. CDM projects should be offered to local public and or private entities in non-Annex 1 countries, and financially additionality in order to receive CDM project must be truly additional to those that would have been implemented anyway according to a realistic baseline. The technological additionality, CDM projects should trigger between technological developments in the host countries. Now, what should be the characteristics of CDM projects? The CDM projects must be voluntary and must have the host country's approval. CDM project must meet the sustainable development goals defined by the host country. CDM projects also must reduce the greenhouse gas emissions above and beyond the business as usual. CDM project must account for greenhouse gas emissions that occur outside the project boundary. CDM project must not contribute to environmental decline and limited to Kyoto Protocol ratified countries only. Now, what are the sectors which involves in the CDM projects? The investors and host, the principal and direct sectors in CDM projects are the investors and host, and CDM projects are implemented through non-profit public and private partnerships. The operational entities are domestic or international legal entities. The government of non-Annex 1 parties play a key role in enabling and promoting CDM projects, and there is a national authority also related to the CDM in India as well. The authority is responsible for certifying that project contributes to the sustainable development goals of the host country. Now, here you can see the CDM activity cycle. These are the steps. The first step is project design. Second is validation and registration. The third one is monitoring, verification and certification, and the issuance. So, the definitions is given against each step, and the responsible entity for project design is project participant. For validation and registration is operational entity, which also includes the executive board. Monitoring is based on the project participants, and verification certification is done by the operational entity, and issuance is done by executive boards. So, once we will implement all these CDM projects, what should be the outcome of CDM projects? So, more resources to pursue sustainable development goals, increased foreign investment and removal of market barriers to make new projects possible, increasing a company's competitive advantage over its competitors, a potential source of additional income streams. Now, we will discuss about the parameters for the selection of country, the cost of technological upgrades, potential return on investment, tax structure, openness to foreign investment, legal infrastructure, availability of financing, labor availability and cost, government cooperation and monitoring capabilities. So, here we will discuss about the benefits of the CDM projects. With the help of this figure, you can understand what are the benefits from the CDM projects. So, you can see the efficiency in the operations, additional capacity, there is a chances of creation of the jobs, technology transfer is also possible with the help of CDM projects, the clean environment and carbon credits result in DFI and revenue. So, these are the indicators for monitoring CDM projects. the emissions of other atmospheric pollutants like SOx, NOx, CO and hydrochloro HC, etc., production of solid wastes and liquid effluents, impacts on biodiversity, transaction costs, concentration of income distribution, employment generation, foreign currency savings, technological developments and or transfer. But as you know, means if there are some opportunities, then obviously there should be some challenges also in the implementation of the CDM projects. So here you can see that there is a suppressed demand. The baseline calculations for least developed countries are low, meaning that project cannot generate sufficient carbon finance to have an impact. Second one is overall efficiency. Sample of the project studies was small, the range of figures was wide, and that their methodology of estimating values slightly overstated. In terms of transactions cost and CDM process requirements, these are geared more towards the most advanced developing countries and do not work well for the projects most often found in LDCs. The risk of fraud also associated in the CDM projects implementations, incentives and the local resistance. Further, the challenges also includes the emission reduction involves calculating the baseline emissions that would have occurred without this project. It is impossible to either prove that the calculated amount of greenhouse gas emissions would have occurred without the particular project. The approval process is overly complex and time consuming. So if you see the CDM project details, then you can see there was a peak in the year 2013 and there were around 1000 registered CDM projects, but now it is declining. And here you can see the CDM projects in Asia by country. So you can see the implementation of the CDM projects. You can see here the India is having 29.4% of the total projects, and China is at number 1, which have 56% of the total projects in Asia. So what is the need of CDM projects in the context of India? This is very important. So the information and communication sectors is one of the major contributors in global greenhouse gas emissions. Telecommunication sector is responsible for half of these emissions, largely due to the massive telecom infrastructure's expansion. Primary reason for this is in the large number of mobile networks tower, which consume about 1 to 5 kilowatt of power, mostly dependent on diesel generators. Now, what is the requirement of CDM projects in the context of India? The diesel generators leave large carbon footprints, which may cause enormous degradation of the environment apart from getting the power at high cost. It also requires that the clean development mechanism is a way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions through efficient and sound technologies. Department of Telecom intends to facilitate the operators for initiating a programmatic or bundled CDM projects installing renewable energy resources in mobile BTS scattered. So to implement all these projects, as I told you before, there is a requirement of CDM authority. So in view of this, the government of India has also established authority related to the CDM. The central government constituted the National Clean Development Mechanism Authority for the purpose of protecting and improving the quality of environment in terms of the Kyoto Protocol. The National Clean Development Mechanism Authority receives projects for evaluation and approval as per the guidelines. Evaluation process of CDM projects includes an assessment of the probability of eventual successful implementation of CDM projects and evaluation of extent to which projects meets the sustainable development objective. The authority can recommend certain additional requirements to ensure that the project proposals meet the national sustainable development priorities and comply with the legal framework. Authorities also ensures that in the event of project proposals competing for same source of investment, projects with higher sustainable development benefits. Authority also carries out the financial review of the project proposal to ensure that the project proposal do not involve diversion of official development assistance. They also invite the officials and experts from government, consultancy organization, financial institutions, civil society, non-government organizations, industry and commerce legal profession for technical and professional inputs. Interact with concerned authorities, individual stakeholders, institutions for matters relating to CDM to take up any environmental issues pertaining to CDM or sustainable projects as may be referred to it by central government to recommend guidelines to the central government for consideration of projects. And here you can see the completed CDM projects in terms of the sector wise. So in this figure you can see there are three major sectors, and one of the major sector is energy industries and energy demand, and the third one is manufacturing industries. So there are many more industries as well which requires these CDM projects. So here you can see the investment under CDM in India and the world. The total projects registered under CDM is about 8,000, and in India we are having 1,376. Total CR issued in million units is about 2,000 in the globe and about 253 in India. Total capital investment is given here, and we are having a significant number in India as well. Total capital investment in all projects till date in million USD you can see worldwide, and there is a significant contribution from Indian side as well. The percentage of capital investment is still active, which includes 73%, and India we are having 89%. So these are the references. If you want to do go through in detail, you can refer these references for your better understanding. Thank you very much. Thanks to all.